April 11th, 2022. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 255 of You Can Bet On That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet On That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting across from me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
How you doing, Dr. Mike?
Oh, hanging in there, Mark.
Sounds good. Getting excited about those Padres?
Yes.
Off to like a terrible...
first place. We're in first place, my friend,
Nice.
as of this morning.
All right, well, let's revel in that.
They
then.
had a terrible first game, but they won the next two.
Yeah.
So I was listening to a radio station on the way over here, a sports talk show.
Yeah.
And the guy was talking about millennials, and he's a millennial.
Okay.
So
he can say whatever he wants.
yeah, I guess. I mean, he's 30 years old.
Okay, right.
He said that one of the things about his generation is they don't handle disappointment well.
Okay.
And so when a team does poorly, they're upset at the team
Right.
because for whatever reason, they haven't had to deal with disappointment like, say, generations past.
Okay.
And, you know, you can get into a whole debate about all that and everything, but it got me thinking about us because here we're used to it, right?
Yeah. We
I mean, seriously, if you live long enough, you get in your 60s and you're like, okay, you know, you've had the ups and the downs. And as a sports fan, I think that's part of watching sports. So when you say, you know, why do I watch teams that I root for? Because I always get upset and stuff.
Yeah.
But you still watch.
Well,
I mean, you still are tempted to watch. You know, if the Padre game's on and you're just not doing anything, you'll still watch the game because that's what sports fans do. And if you're a sports fan long enough, you learn to realize there are going to be bad times. There's going to be some good times. And you just have to deal with that.
yeah. So what Mike's talking about, a couple of times I've said to him, you know, Mike, I don't like watching sports where I care about the outcome.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed the basketball tournament because I kind of really didn't care, right? Once the Aztecs were out, you know, it's like that. And I'll have to admit, the other night when the Padres kind of blew that lead, I turned it off. And I caught myself watching too, Mike, even the games last night, I would watch them when they were at bat.
Yeah.
And I'd turn away when they weren't. I just don't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm contradicting what you say,
Well,
but it's
I
just...
don't know. I mean, for me, I still watch it knowing that I may be disappointed.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I've gotten used to it.
Yeah, well, okay.
I mean, we've had lots of disappointments in our lives, so we're used to that, right?
Yep.
But I mean, as a sports fan, you've got to have a thick skin.
Yeah, right.
And you know, a lot of people don't. They just can't handle that. And the guy was commenting because the Lakers missed the playoffs.
Oh, right. That was a big deal.
That's what started it.
Yeah.
And you know, all the Laker fans are just totally upset at the team and blah, 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 and everything. And you know, they're spoiled, right? How many times have they won championships and stuff and had great teams? And this year they don't. And, you know, everyone's upset. Well, think about if you're like a Detroit Pistons fan, right? I mean, they had years ago where they were great. The last 20 years, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
So you just let it flow over your back, Mark.
Okay, well, that's good advice.
And the Padres will do what they do. And at the end of the year, we'll either be somewhat happy or very disappointed. We won't be ecstatic.
Right. We won't be very happy. Somewhat happy or very disappointed. That's a good way. Well, I like what you're saying. Let it just flow over you. Yeah. My way of letting it flow over me is to just not watch games that I care about.
Yeah. Well, actually, I am more at peace when I'm watching a game I don't care about.
Yeah. Oh,
I do, you know, like
it's more relaxing.
Well, like the Masters golf here. I mean, I really don't care who wins.
Yeah.
I just like it to be close and kind of exciting.
You want a
and
competitive,
fun, a competitive thing. It's relaxing to me to watch that.
Yes.
I do get tense with the Padres when, you know, something's going on.
I don't need that stress in my life anymore.
I know. Well, that's what pills are for, Mark.
Oh, yeah. I should contact my doctor.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to watch Padres games. Is there a pill for that?
No, but we have a club.
Yeah. All right. Well, on our last episode, listener Eric told a story about how his reservation at Horseshoe in Tunica was canceled the day he was supposed to arrive due to a snowstorm. And when he wrote us that, he kind of put it in quotes, right? You know,
well, yeah, because snowstorm can be a lot of things to a lot of different people, right?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if we got one flake here, that'd be a snowstorm in San Diego.
People would be crashing
Minnesota,
into each other,
if it's less than a foot, it's just a regular day.
But he said a couple things bothered him. Number one, he was notified only by email.
Right.
And number two, all the roads were open to the casino. And so he actually called them and spoke with somebody who told him that his reservation was canceled due to concerns over customer safety. And he was thinking like, well, what do you mean? I mean, shouldn't that be up to me? Right. I know I can drive there and get there.
He's assuming he's the customer they're worried about.
Right. So we actually got responses from several listeners. They said the reason his reservation was canceled was probably because there were already guests staying at the hotel.
Right.
Who couldn't leave because of the snowstorm. And that could mean a lot of things. Even though there's no snow maybe right at the casino, maybe they can't get to the airport. Or maybe if they were to get to the airport, their flight's been canceled because of weather in other parts of the country,
right.
Something like that. So probably what the representative was saying, without saying it was,
right.
Well, we already have guests here who need to stay longer than they intended. And so your room is not available, the reservation that you made.
Yeah.
And they didn't say that to Eric.
Right, because that would probably infuriate him.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it would actually make more sense than what they actually did. But
depending on the person.
Depending on the person. So it's kind of a no-win situation, I guess, whether that kind of thing.
Right.
But maybe that's what happened.
Do you remember, might have been a couple years now, where there were some fire concerns, which we get regularly here in Southern California, out near Harrah's Rincon, and the power went out.
Right.
And they made the people staying at the hotel leave.
Well, which makes sense. That really is safety reasons.
Yeah, well, there was no power.
Right.
But you're telling them, okay, leave, get on the roads. There's fires out there. And sure, we understand you're here from New York and you're here a week and you've been here one day and you have nowhere to go or stay, but leave. You've got to leave. Yeah. So, what did they do for those people?
I don't know specifically, but if I recall, they found other lodging for them and they probably made some kind of arrangements for transportation, right?
I guess they would have had to. They have no car or anything. And it's kind of out there. It's not like you call a cab.
Yeah.
It was a weird situation. I remember we drove out there, right?
Yes,
right. And it was closed.
Right. It's,
like,
they turned us away, right? And it's like, oh, why didn't we know? Actually, they had posted something like on their Twitter or Facebook.
We just didn't even think about it.
We didn't even think about it.
We didn't think the fire was that close, which it really wasn't. Well, it was just that the power went out.
Right. And the power going out might not have been the results of the fire, but it could have been the electric company actually turning the power off. Right,
yeah,
for safety.
As a matter of fact, I think that's what it was, the power.
So we just have to remember whenever there's fire danger, we need to
check
at least call or find out something.
So in San Diego, fire danger or one flake of snow,
right?
We'll call ahead.
Yes, exactly. And earthquake, we don't know when that's going to happen. We could be on the road when that happens.
Every day we should call. Is there any earthquake problems?
That's right. Well, I remember my grandfather told me a story. You remember my grandfather? We used to go to Vegas with him all the time. He said he was up in Reno with my grandmother and my great aunt and uncle, and they got snowed in there. They were planning on leaving,
right?
And they couldn't.
Yeah.
So they had to, pay for another night at the hotel. And to hear him tell the story, they lost way more than just the lodging and, for the extra because they had nothing else to do. There was nothing to do. You couldn't go outside or anything.
Yeah.
They
your
had
dad probably wasn't or your grandpa probably wasn't too upset staying there.
Probably not.
Your grandma might have thought differently, but...
Anyway, so that might have been the case, Eric. I don't know if that helps you, but
yeah. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah.
You were a good person by not showing up.
That's right. All right. Well, Mike, I am back from Biloxi, and we really had a good time. It was a very good trip. Kind of relaxing because there was no real agenda. I certainly wasn't responsible to be anywhere or anything.
Yeah,
but,
that's always nice.
Yeah, so it was kind of nice in that respect.
I purposely have not talked to you about your trip because I wanted to hear everything for the first time right here.
Yep.
Just like everybody else.
Okay, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
There you go.
Wow me.
Okay. Well, I don't know about that. Well, I flew into New Orleans, which it makes a lot more sense because I was able to get a nonstop flight there.
Yes.
And plus it would have been more expensive to actually fly into the airport close to Biloxi. So
those small airports get you.
Plus it would have been I couldn't have gone nonstop to straight to Biloxi.
You got to go somewhere.
So I decided to do that and then rent a car when I got there. And my plan was to, on the way to Biloxi, actually swing over to Harrah's New Orleans just to check that out and then head on to Biloxi. Well, anyway, the flight was fine, but it was absolutely the roughest landing I've ever been through.
Really?
Right? I mean, just
weather problems?
Yeah, turbulence and
wow.
getting down. Now, I didn't realize what the weather was like till I actually got out of the airport. Extremely windy to the point where it almost blew me over once. That's how windy it was, right?
When you were landing and it was pretty turbulent, what were you thinking?
Oh, I'm pretty calm in situations like that. Okay. Seriously, I had my iPhone and
really, because I'd be thinking, great. My last gambling trip was to Harrah's Rincon and I lost. I'd be so mad.
Your emotions, I know, can kind of take over when it comes to air travel. The rational side of my brain is able to kind of push down the emotional side.
Well, what happens is going to happen, right?
Yeah, right. I have no control over it. There's nothing I can do to help the situation, right?
You might as well sit there and just be calm and figure out, you're going to play 2 pair behind or pair.
Right. That's what I think about it most of the trip anyway. Sure, I could have taken off my seatbelt and gone running up and down the aisle, screaming, we're all going to die. Right. I don't know that would have helped.
Yeah. But if you do run up and down the aisle, take all your clothes off. I mean, you're going to get in trouble either way.
Yeah, either way. Might as well take advantage of it.
Take all your clothes off.
Yeah. So I had gotten a rental car through Auto Slash. We've talked about them before. It's kind of a nice website where you go and they find the lowest cost for your car. Even after you've made your reservations, if they find something lower, they contact you. So anyway, they got me a car through Economy Rent-A-Car. And so none of us, when Mississippi Rob originally suggested this weekend, it didn't really occur to any of us that it was Final Four weekend in New Orleans, right? That's where it's taking place. So I didn't even think about it, but I got this rental car at, kind of a high price. But, well, that explains it, right?
Right, yeah. They're renting all their cars out.
So at New Orleans, they have a rental car hub that you take a shuttle to, which is pretty common.
A lot of places do.
Airports. So I jumped on that and got to the rental car hub, and I'm looking around for Economy Rent-A-Car, and there's just nothing. There's nothing there. And there weren't many people actually at the rental car place. I went up to the National and said, yeah, I'm looking for Economy Rent-A-Car. And he says, oh, yeah, I think they're actually off-site. Okay, so I call the 800 number.
Right.
And I'm trying to explain what's going on. He just transfers me to the New Orleans location.
Okay.
And they said, oh, yeah, we'll send a shuttle to pick you up. And I said, so should I have waited at the airport? There was nothing that said Economy, don't get on this shuttle or anything like that. And he said, no, we'll pick you up at the rental car hub.
Okay.
That's what we do. You take the shuttle from the airport to the rental car hub, and then we pick you up.
And then you have to call?
Yeah. But there's I didn't know, right?
Yeah, there's no big sign that says if you're here for economy, you're screwed.
Yeah, right. There's nothing. So I get on the phone with the guy. He said, yeah, they're on their way. They're on their way. And I wait. Luckily, he waited on the phone with me, till the guy, right? So, this little van pulls up, and I get in. It's filthy, and, the floors are all dirty.
Oh, God.
The off-site location was actually fairly close.
Yeah.
But it was in this abandoned hotel. I shouldn't say abandoned. It was going through... They were doing renovations, but it was closed.
This trip is starting
Oh, my gosh. And luckily, I'm still very calm. There's nowhere I need to be. So I walk into the lobby of this place, and sure enough, there's a rental car office right off the lobby. But all the employees are kind of milling around the lobby. And when I walk in, they say, oh, yeah, you're here to rent. Our power is out.
Oh, my God.
And the power is out as a result of the weather.
Okay.
It's not because of the bandit, right? They have no power. They're not able to get onto their computers.
Right.
So they have to get on a phone with like the manager who's at her house. She has power. She can do everything over the computer.
Okay.
Right. So they take a picture of, my driver license and my credit card, and they're sending it to her, and the text isn't going through because the cell service is
Oh, God.
And, I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, what kind of car am I going to get?
Yeah, I hope this ends with like a 1971 Chevy Vega. I hope that's what you get.
So she says, I also need your proof of insurance. And I said, well, I've never had to provide proof of insurance when I've rented
They just
a car.
ask you, do you have it?
Yeah, and you usually, initial saying, I'm covered somewhere else. I don't want your insurance. It turns out, at least this location, I don't know if it's all economy, they don't offer insurance. It's not even something they offer.
Okay.
So you have to provide
your own
proof of insurance. So I get on the phone and I call my son back here, who luckily is at home, and luckily my cell service is going through. And I said, hey, can you go to the car and find out our policy number? So he did that.
Oh, my God.
So this took forever. Finally, she has a car for me. It's like this Nissan. It's actually fairly nice. It's not bad. Just a sedan. And I'm looking around. There's no damage or anything. And she starts up the car and gets the mileage. We make sure it's full of gas, that kind of thing. And I'm putting my stuff in the trunk, and I said, oh, can I have the keys? And she says, oh, the keys are already in there. You know, the car is running. Right. So it's, oh, of course, right. So I'm about to get in the car. She had been walking away. She comes back up to me and said, oh, no, sorry, here are the keys.
It was one of those remote
starters. It's one of those, keyless entries, right? So the car was running. I could have driven away without the keys and it would be fine. Now, I think you actually get a warning if you get too far away from the keys.
It does.
I would have known.
Ours does that. It beeps.
Right. But I could have seen myself driving all the way to Biloxi without the keys. Right.
Well, and you just have to leave the car on the whole time.
I know we haven't even gotten to Biloxi or gambling or anything. I'm just telling this story. All the employees are saying, yeah, we're going home. I hope they send us home. Yeah. Because of the weather that's coming in.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I'm not going to go to Harrah's New Orleans. I'm not going to risk it and get stranded there or the weather, whatever. Right. I need to get to Biloxi.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I drove straight to Biloxi. There was a lot of wind. I didn't hit any rain. But, when I came back to drop the rental car off, I was talking to the woman who helped me. And she said, oh, yeah, as soon as you left, the rains came in, right? And then the weather got really bad. Yeah. So turns out if I'd gone to Harrah's New Orleans, I'm sure I would have hit some of that rain.
I was hoping you'd say, when you get to Biloxi, they tell you your reservation's been canceled due to weather.
Yeah, that's right. And we emailed you.
We emailed you. Didn't you get that email?
Something I found out after the fact is because the Final Four apparently and everything, Harrah's New Orleans, they were charging for parking.
Wow.
And not like $5, like $30
to park your car.
Right. So I might have had to pay that. This was a Wednesday, so the tournament hadn't really started yet. But I ended up not going to Harrah's New Orleans. I thought maybe I'd stop there on the way to the airport when I left, but I didn't get there. So
we have no report on Harrah's.
No report on Harrah's New Orleans.
Okay.
People say that it's nice, and I'm sure it is.
We'll leave that for another time.
Yep. Right. So I get to Biloxi. I go to Harrah's. Now, this Harrah's property is small. Yeah. I was really surprised when I went in there and I'm checking in everything. I'm looking. There are only a couple of restaurants. Their gift shop is just minuscule, right? Uh-huh. Very few items, very small.
Wow.
And the hotel in general is small. Now, I found out that what it used to be was the casino was across the street on the water. That was the law. The casino actually had to be on the water.
Right.
And then was wiped out when Katrina hit. And so the law was changed where it doesn't have to be on water anymore. So they converted what used to be only the hotel and restaurants and stuff like that.
Into the whole thing.
Into the whole thing, including a casino. So the casino layout is a little odd.
Right.
And kind of small.
So that's like similar to Harrah's, Indiana, where the casino was on a boat on the water, but there was this long hallway that connected it to a hotel,
exactly. That's
which
what
was
it used
on
to
land
be.
and stuff and everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Oh, so that explains it'd be pretty small then, because the hotel lobby became the casino floor.
Yeah, I don't know what it used to be like, the layout, but you got the right idea. So I check in and she says, okay, we've got a king-size bed smoking room. And I said, do you have anything non-smoking? I don't know why my host made a smoking reservation. But do you have anything non-smoking? She said, let me check. And she said, no, sorry, we're completely booked up. We don't have non-smoking. So I'm thinking, well, okay, fine. I can probably deal with
you
that.
can deal with it.
So I go up to the room. It reeked. I have never been in any rooms where it was this overpowering. I think people who stayed there, people who stayed there before me,
chain smoke.
Yeah, the whole time, anytime they were in the room.
There were 16 people in that room, Mark, all chain smoking.
Now, if I'm in a stinky environment, I remember when I was a kid, I took some summer school class in oceanography, and the teacher had all this stuff in formaldehyde in there. When you'd get in the morning, it reeked, but as the day went on, you didn't even notice it anymore. You got used to it.
It's like when you have dissection in medical school.
Okay.
The first time you're in there, you can't believe how bad that is.
I never quite got used to the smoke in this room, all right? It was always
lingering. Well, it'd be hard to
lingering.
sleep with that smell.
Yeah, I actually slept okay, and I don't know if it's because of, I always have trouble sleeping in Las Vegas. Maybe it's because of the dry air, or who knows what. Surprisingly, I slept okay.
Yeah,
even
it's probably because your senses were overloaded and you just went into some kind of unconscious mode.
It could be, yeah. It probably put me. I was probably under the influence.
So far, it's been kind of stressful trip.
Yeah, you're getting the gist of it. So I, go into the bathroom, and I didn't notice it right away, but there's like this trail of sticky substance on the ground. It's kind of clear, but it's sticky. And dust and hair is collected on it. It's
really?
Like, what? So I get a towel and kind of clean it up, and it's disgusting, and throw the towel in a corner.
What was that?
I don't know. And see, the thing is,
Would you like me to guess?
No, thank you. So, I had called housekeeping too, and I said, I'm not sure if this hotel is one where you have to request housekeeping or if it's automatic.
Right.
And she said to me, we don't do housekeeping for occupied rooms, which I guess is kind of a trend, after COVID and everything. So, okay, fine. One of the things I like about going on vacation is how they, clean up the room every day.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, nobody's coming into my room. I kind of like that too. Right.
Right. It would have been better story if you had called the housekeeping and she immediately said, "Oh, is that about the sticky stuff on the floor?" And when you said yes, and then she click. I would have loved that.
Yeah, I'd try to find a room in another hotel at that point. So, they have a safe there. This is pretty standard that hotel rooms have safes, especially hotels with casinos. So I look, and there are 2 safes.
Wow.
There's one kind of attached to the floor, and then there's one sitting on top of it. And I realized the one on the bottom is broken. It doesn't work.
Okay.
So what they had done was they brought in a new safe and just set it on top.
So you could carry it away?
Yeah, it's not attached to anything. So I'm thinking, should I even bother putting anything in the safe if somebody can just walk away with it?
Guy walking through the lobby with his safe under his arm. Nobody says anything. Oh, he's got a safe.
He's taking it. I will say this. The room was overlooking the coast, so I had a great view from my window. Okay, so that was something good about the room. Yeah. So already I'm thinking, well, this is probably the worst Harrah's I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And as I was talking to more people on the trip, too, Harrah's Casino was the only one anybody really had anything to complain about.
Really?
The dealers and, just kind of the layouts. So, Harrah's Gulf Coast, even though Boomtown's kind of thought of as like the sawdust joint, the real cheap minimums and things like that. Right. But I think, honestly, when you talk to people, Harrah's is like the dumpy property.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's certainly the worst Harrah's I've ever stayed at.
Right.
So
Well, from now, I'm learning a lot. I really am learning a lot from your trip here so far. I mean, I'm going to request, do I want 1 safe or 2? Does that room come with 1 safe or 2? I could care less about the king-size bed. How many safes are there in my room?
And how many safes are attached?
Yeah.
I'd like 1 attached and 1 unattached.
Yeah. That way you can take your money with you wherever you go, and it's safe.
That's right. So that was the first night I went to bed fairly early. So the next day, Thursday, the official trip hadn't really begun yet. So I decided what I'll do is I'll drive around to all the casinos.
Check them all out.
Yeah, because probably during the course of the trip, there's some we won't go to.
You're right.
Just people get together. So I went all around to all the different ones just to check and join their players club and things like that. One interesting thing, I went to Boomtown and I went to sign up for their players club. And she said, "Oh, I see you're already in our system from Hamul." And I'm thinking, Hamul? I thought Hamul was just independent. And then later some people were reminding me, they're part of the Hollywood. So
when it used to be Hollywood.
When it used to be part of Penn National, it was that. So I was still in their system for that.
Oh, okay.
So, that was interesting. And then there was a Golden Nugget. They're part of Golden Nugget. And IP, they're part of Boyd. And Beau Rivage, they're part of MGM. And there was a Hard Rock and, other ones. But anyway, so that was nice. I was able to check them all out. One thing I will say about this was true of every casino, every entrance to the casino. There was a security person at a podium.
Right.
Every single one. If there were multiple entrances into the casino, say from the parking garage elevator or just, from the outside, They were there, and I assume that's part of the law or whatever. And mostly they were just checking ID for people who looked underage.
Right.
There was one case where Tim actually tried to walk in with a backpack, and they wouldn't let him.
Oh, really?
Apparently that was some new policy. This was at Palace. And so he had to go back to the car to, put it away.
What if you were checking into the hotel?
I don't know. There was probably this was to get into the casino, not the hotel, but the actual casino, right? So there's probably a different, So, but that was consistent through all the hotels at, a check location.
Now here at Harrah's Rincon, they do have a podium by the elevators there.
Yeah, but it's not always manned, though, is it?
Not always, but most of the time it is. At high traffic times, it definitely is. But the rest of the entrances,
the front entrance, there's nobody. So. All right, let's actually get on to part of the trip. The first meetup was at Beau Rivage, which is the nicest property, and I agree, it was the nicest property. And Mike, if you were to just be transported right into the center of Beau Rivage and asked, okay, where are you? You'd say, oh, I'm at the Bellagio in Las Vegas.
Okay.
I mean, the decor, the way it's laid out, it's
nice.
very much like that. So the craps tables were all full, but we walked by a Baccarat table. It was Midi Baccarat, the M-I-D-I, not Mini Baccarat, but Midi Baccarat. And it was $50, and it's a squeeze game. A squeeze game is where you actually get to touch the cards. So whoever has the most money bet on banker, they get to touch the banker's cards, and whoever has the most money bet on player
gets to touch the player. Yeah.
And it's the game too where you can bend the cars, kind of tear them if you want to.
Right.
I don't know if they'd be happy if you completely ripped it up, because at the end they do collect all the cards. But it's part of the culture, the ritual of playing Baccarat.
Right.
It's not just showing the cards right away. You're real slow and you peel it back and you kind of things.
I hate that. To be honest, I hate that.
All right, but Mike, I'll tell you, we fell in love with this game on this trip. Tim and Mississippi Rob and others. It would drive you crazy.
Yeah.
It would drive you crazy. I agree. You'd be saying, I got to get to the craps table.
Yeah,
because
it's so slow.
It is very slow and deliberate. But if you're having a good time with it, you're peeling back, come on, you can have a blast. And there's plenty of time to socialize. It's more social than even craps, because craps is just continually going. So we played $50 at Beau Rivage, and then most of the rest of the time at IP, they had a $25 squeeze game.
Nice.
And so we descended on that, and we just played for hours, And really, you're not going to swing too far one to the other, right?
Oh, no.
It's going slower than Pai Gow poker for the most part.
Right.
There aren't as many pushes.
Right.
But, I mean, we had a blast, so,
Yeah, it is a good game if you're there just socialize and drink.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. So again, we met up on that first night. We did play a little craps. We had some food. Listener Doug, who had been over at Boomtown earlier, told us that while he was there, they shut down the roll to win table, saying that there was some illegal software on it and that the Mississippi Gaming Commission had closed it down. Now, over the course of the weekend, sure enough, we found out all the roll to win tables, at least in Biloxi, had been closed down.
Wow.
And we got varying stories from pit bosses
of course,
and dealers.
You're not going to know.
But it was basically that, there was something in the software that was illegal. Probably not cheating or not wrong. There was something...
just some kind of manufacturing kind of defect
something
or something.
that was going against, the laws in Mississippi. Because we heard that at Harrah's New Orleans, their roll to win table was still going. I contacted you and said, you go up to Harrah's for your free play, is the roll to win? And you said,
they were still there going.
Who knows? We never did find out what the deal was, and maybe we will eventually. But
anyway, you probably won't unless it was something nefarious.
It's probably
if it's something
sort of
just
mundane.
You're not going to find out.
Yeah. We did play a little craps though that first night at Beau Rivage, and something kind of funny. Mississippi Rob walked away to go use the restroom and left his chips there, of course, right? And everybody watches. And so he came back and he said to the dealer, I'm pretty sure I had 1,000 here. There was like, $200, $300 in front, right? He's just joking. He said, I'm pretty sure I had 1,000 here. And she said, I'm pretty sure it's gone. It was just so fast, right? And just like, SOL.
I think she's heard that before.
Probably, it just came back.
I'm pretty sure it's gone. She should have. Yeah, some guy came by and took it. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, we saw it happen. You should probably
Nobody
find
stood
it.
up for
He had bright red hair and he was
right.
wearing a purple shirt. So anyway, over the course of the trip, we went to various casinos. We played a lot at IP, which I said where we played the Baccarat. When I first went over to IP, I went over with Jeff. You know Jeff. He's come out to the Harrah, Southern California before. We went over there. The craps tables were full. And I said, well, let's go find Pai Gow, because that's kind of our backup, too, playing Pai Gow.
Right.
No face-up Pai Gow that we could find in Biloxi.
In Biloxi.
No, it was all just regular standard Pai Gow. Anyway, we were heading over there, and I noticed that the Mississippi stud table is open. Nobody's there.
Right.
And it's a $10 minimum. Now, with Mississippi stud, in the case with a lot of carnival games, $10 minimum is sort of deceptive, because if you're going to stay all the way to the end of the hand,
you're going to be you
have to put up more money. And if you stay to the end of the hand in Mississippi stud, the least amount you're going to have out there is $40.
Right.
$10 plus 10, the way that it works out, right?
Yeah.
So then, well, I'm going to, you know what? I haven't played Mississippi stud in so long. I'm in Mississippi.
Yeah.
It's $10 minimum. I might as well play.
as.
Yeah, Mike, I spent a good 3.5 hours
playing Mississippi stud
table.
Really?
Yep, and I had a blast.
Oh.
Yep. And at the end, I ended up even turning a profit. I bought in for like $300, $400 and almost lost it all. Like a lot of carnival games, you need to hit those big hands every once in a while.
You need to hit a big hand.
To make a recoup.
Exactly.
And so, it finally hit, and I hit a couple at the end. I just had a blast.
Yeah,
so, that might be what I do from now on. We go up, you play craps, I'll play Mississippi stud.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
I did play craps at Harrah's Gulf Coast. They had 2 tables. One was crapless and one was standard. When only one was open, it was always the crapless. I guess people just like playing there, right?
Well, I mean, you can kind of justify that by the fact that it satisfies both people.
I guess
the people who want to play crapless and regular craps.
It could be. Although
play
betting the pass line, the odds are so much worse, right? Because your points. Well, I was rolling, so I had to bet on the pass line, and sure enough, I had a point of 12.
Okay.
Right? And I also placed some other numbers. I'm starting to win. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm going to put some odds behind my 12.
12, right.
And so I'm rolling, get more. Finally, I get $50 behind the 12.
Wow.
And I rolled the 12.
Nice.
So that's 6 to 1. That in the back pays 6 to 1. So that's $300. So that was kind of exciting. Woo! Tipping the dealers. That's the extent of the craps, though, I played at Harrah's Gulf Coast. Where I was staying, like for the reasons I said.
That was the whole
right?
thing.
Yeah. The other craps, and this was probably the biggest craps get-together we had, was at Palace, which is a non-smoking casino, completely non-smoking. That was nice.
Did they kick you out because of your smell from your room?
Oh my gosh. When I got home, Sherry was saying my clothes reeked. I mean, I took them out of my suitcase and it just overwhelmed her, compared to, say, a Vegas trip.
That's when you take the suitcase and just stuff the whole suitcase into your washing machine. Just push it down in there and run it through once like that. Yeah. Then take it out, then individually
and then do it
watch.
Normal. Yeah. We should have done that. So Palace, we played craps. I finally met Brian Dancer.
Oh, nice.
Who we talked about a lot on the show, and his wife, Deb. They were the nicest people, Mike. Okay. Oh my gosh, they were just so terrific. They were so happy to be there. They said Palace is their casino of choice when they're in Biloxi.
All right. Where do they live?
They live in, I believe, Tallahassee, they said.
Okay.
All right. So but when they come, they stay at Palace. The table was kind of hot and cold. Ultimately, no big wins, no big losses. In fact, at the end, everybody, how'd you do? Oh, I lost a little bit. I won a little bit. Really depended on how you bet. But the dice finally got around to Brian, and he had a great roll.
Nice.
And so we just had a great time at that table. That was the most fun at craps that we had there the whole time.
All right.
And the point was 9 at one point. And I was kind of putting on a show. How I was drinking, and so I was loud.
All right.
And how
I know that.
And so the point was 9, and I thought, I'm going to really focus in on the dice when they land. And if it's 9, I'm going to explode, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching, and look, and one of the dice is 5, and then on the other comes 4. And immediately I just, no. And the dealer jumped. She was, it was so loud and so scared. What? So we were tipping, so I hope that was okay. But we had a great time.
Goes home, sits in her chair. She's got this pounding headache. She's thinking, that guy.
So anyway, Brian and Deb, it was really nice to meet you. I met so many. I can't, mention everybody that we met on the trip. It's just impossible to remember. You're going to forget some people. But all right, so let me tell you a few more stories. Let me wrap up the trip. And then I'll just tell you some little individual stories that don't really fit into the narrative. When I left, I was checking out. This was part of my 7 Stars retreat, which means free airfare, which really it covered, again, Final Four weekend, even though it was Southwest, and free rooms, and then a $500 folio while I'm there. There's no way I could have spent all $500 because they didn't really have any shops or anything. It was just the gift shop and restaurants and what have you. So fine. But, I rang up a bill of like $150 or something like that. So I go to check out and I said, yeah, I want to make sure there's no balance. She said, oh yeah, balance is like $150. And I said, well, this is part of my retreat. There should be a $500 folio. Yeah. No, I don't see anything about that.
What?
So, it's one more thing. She gets on the phone, talks to some host. All right, she's going to call me back. So I go and buy some things, do some things. Finally, I go over to the host. I knew where the host location was. And the host there was super nice. Said, we'll get to the bottom of this. And I don't know what happened or what. Eventually, they got it taken care of. And I was able to go back and say, all right, it's all covered. So
they had to call some executive who was at home. And
they were asking who my host was that set it up. It's my guy in Las Vegas. And what was it supposed to be? And I'm like, well, obviously it's my 7 Stars retreat. You paid for the airfare. And she's looking at the records and it says, well, it shows airfare to Harrah's Rincon. And I'm saying, like, I live near here. I didn't fly to Harrah's. Whatever. I don't know what happened, but they got it worked out so far. I drove back to the rental car place, checked in. That worked out fine.
Okay,
they shuttled me over to the rental car hub. Where I caught a shuttle back to the airport. Now, the rental car hub...
First time somebody's had to take 2 shuttles to get a rental car.
The rental car hub, this was Sunday now, between the 2 games and the championship.
Right.
It was a madhouse.
Really?
Well, when I'd been there Wednesday, it was a ghost town. And this was... If I had just arrived and I saw the lines that I was going to have to get into to get a rental car... It was the worst I've ever seen at any rental car ever.
Now, this is on Sunday.
This is Sunday.
Why are people
I don't know.
leaving or coming? Because they would have been there for the Final Four.
I don't know. You'd think they would have been there, but maybe
maybe these aren't Final Four people. Maybe these are just regular tourists going to New Orleans.
I mean, it could be. But on a Sunday, and you're arriving, I think a lot of it was for the Final Four. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Superdome. It's ridiculously big. It's way too big for a basketball game.
Right.
But it holds a lot of people.
It's crazy,
right?
So. Well, when I was watching, I was telling my wife, if you're sitting at the top, what's the use?
It's a rumor. You'd be watching it on your phone.
Yeah,
you'd
can't
have a better
see anything. No. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's bad enough watching a football game, but a basketball game?
I know.
Well, maybe that was it. Maybe the rental hub was busy because people attended the Final Four on Saturday. And they weren't happy with the 2 that made it to the finals, so we're leaving.
Yeah, but generally you don't have to stand in a line to leave, to drop off a car. Right? That's all done.
These are all people coming.
So this was clearly people arriving in New Orleans.
Who had tickets to the final championship game.
They were there for, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so... All right, so that was basically my trip. Let me tell some individual stories here. One night we went to Scarlet Pearl, which is also a very nice... hotel casino, kind of a little bit of ways from the rest of the central Biloxi casinos.
Okay. Affiliated with somebody or?
No, it was independent.
Okay.
Yeah. And, a little bit of a drive. What about, like 5 or 10 minutes. It's nothing. But I mean, you really wouldn't want to walk there. It's over a bridge and everything. So we get there, and for whatever reason, we're all kind of looking around. It's super nice, and it's like, we're just not feeling it.
Yeah.
I just don't really want to play here, and the minimums were kind of high. So anyway, some of the group decided to go play miniature golf. There's a miniature golf course associated with the hotel too. And I thought, well, I don't really enjoy miniature golf. It's too stressful. Imagine what I'd be like on a real golf course, right? Okay. So I said, I'm just going to play. Well, I signed up for their players club and they had $20 free play to start with. So I just wanted to get it over with. I put it into a slot machine. I ended up hitting some small bonus and cashed out for $80. So turned 20 into 80. So that was good. So I went to the craps table. It was a $25 minimum. I thought, well, I'm just going to bet 25 on the line, and I'll place some numbers for $25. I'm not going to take odds. I don't want to go crazy.
Right.
So at one point, I had a place bet on the 5, $25. And the 5 hit, and she paid me $36.
Wow.
So
she thinks she was at roulette or something.
At first I'm thinking it should be 35, right? And she gives me 36. And it wasn't a mistake. That's something you don't accidentally put another dollar on. And so I asked her, I said, so are you paying this off as if it were a buy bet?
Uh-huh.
And she said, oh, yeah, everything, $20 or more, it's a buy.
Ah.
And I'm thinking, even on the 5 and 9. And we have talked about this, about how if you don't have to pay the VIG up front, if you only pay on wins, it actually is better to buy the 5 and 9. And she said, yeah, we do that. And I said, well, how much can I bet on the 5 for just $1? Because 25 isn't going to pay it correctly, right? It's 3 to 2. You want it to be an even number. And she said $38, anything below 40. Okay. I'm saying, really?
Wow.
So, and I asked about the 4 and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to $39.
39, okay, yeah.
For just $1 after the fact.
Right.
Well, Mike, I've never heard of buy bets that good except for free ones that we've heard about before.
Right.
Usually, I've heard them say, well, if you pay up front, you can go up to like $39. But if you pay afterwards, well, 25 is about as much. Anyway, so long story short, I just, bought the 5 and 9 for 30. I didn't want to go to 38.
Go to a weird number,
And 35 for the 4 and 10. These turn out to be pretty good bets, certainly compared to a 5-place bet.
Sure.
And it was matter of fact. And when I was talking to the dealer, she was just kind of like, well, sure, that's the way it is and then I realized, maybe it is the way it is everywhere in Biloxi. And I just didn't know till right now because I hadn't been placing the 5.
Right.
So at least it's Scarlet Pearl. So
after that, you didn't place any bets anywhere else?
No, after that, this was like one of the last nights. So I didn't even play craps after that. So yeah. So anyway, that was
that's nice.
Nice to find out. One thing I'm going to confess to here, Mike.
Okay.
Those individual bubble craps games where you have your own dice. You're not playing with other people.
It's just you, yeah.
I got hooked on them
this
trip, right? And when I'd be sitting there playing, people would come up to me, people in our group, and it's like, I'm surprised to see you here, Mark. Like, oh, yeah, I'm just killing time. But what I'm really thinking is, oh, my gosh, I like this. The low limits, the way that you can pace however you want to go. Because I get frustrated on shoot to win, waiting for rolls.
Right.
But then the flip side was if somebody came up to me, oh, hey, Mark, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you can stop and talk.
I could completely stop. I'm not distracted by the dice rolling or, do I have money out there?
Right.
So I played a lot of that, and I'm kind of hooked on it, and I make no apologies. Okay?
Are you going to play that out at Harrah's Rincon now?
If I'm not with you, I probably will.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
I think so. Yeah. So did a lot of that this trip.
And you can make your bets, and then you don't have to do much after that, right? I mean, unless you're adding to them or
it depends on what you're doing. I was doing a lot come bets, so I did have to kind of, stay on top of it. But if you're just placing numbers.
If you just place some numbers, just sit there and
keep pounding the button.
Immediately hit it as soon as it...
Couple more stories. So Joey 11 Yo on Twitter, he was there. You remember we spent a lot of time with him in Atlantic City. He was at Harrah's. At Harrah's, and almost all the casinos there, they offer 10 times odds on craps.
Okay.
So he's there, and he had noticed on their website, it said 100 times odds. And so he complained to them, said, hey, look, it's 100 times odds, and actually showed them on the website.
Right.
And apparently he made quite a stink about it. He was laughing about how they were, well, you're really getting worked up about this, sir. Well, it says 100 times odds. And, ultimately he probably didn't really care. It was just more like false advertising, right? So they said, all right, tell you what, sir, you come back tonight, like after 7 o'clock, and just for you, we'll offer you 100 times odds.
Wow.
Not for anybody you're with, but just for you.
Okay.
So we're talking...
Well, anyone who comes with him could say the same thing. Well, wait a minute. You're...
Okay, when he's telling us this story, it's still before 7 o'clock. And we went on and looked, and sure enough, they had changed the website to 10 times odds, which is pretty impressive. I would think they'd have to go through so many hoops.
Yeah,
this huge conglomerate to get a web. But no, they really just changed it to 10 times odds. So I don't even think he went back to do it. It was more a matter of principle. But he was going to, go back. I want 100 times odds. He'd probably take like 12 times odds. Who's going to actually take 100 times odds right now? We thought that was pretty funny.
That is good.
So one final story. We're all playing Pai Gow poker at Boomtown.
Yeah.
$10 minimum. They were super nice to us there, even though it's like the dumpy place, it's great crew and great staff and everything. So we're playing Pai Gow, and Jeff, he is dealt 4 aces. So good. Okay, he's going to win on the side bet.
Right.
And he didn't have another pair. There was nothing else. So how do you play that hand, Mike?
Pair.
Right. You pair of aces behind and a pair of aces up
on
front.
Top. Right. Yeah. But you can't lose. You could push. You can't lose.
Right. You can't lose because you're
used
using
all the aces.
4 of the aces, even if the dealer has to use the joker for an ace.
Right.
She can't have 2 aces. Right? So you can't lose. Well, for whatever reason, Jeff played 4 aces in the 5-card hand and king queen in the 2-card hand.
Okay. Now I could go with that.
No.
I mean, it's not the right way to play, but I can understand his thinking. He's thinking, well, the best she can play on top is king queen if she doesn't have the joker.
Right. Yes. Right. She's probably not going to play an ace up top.
Yeah.
But any pair, it's the wrong way to play. And I don't know. Maybe Jeff was thinking. See, the thing is, if you're dealt 4 of a kind like that, you don't have to keep them together to win the bonus bets.
Right.
You don't have to. You can split them up.
You can split them. He knew that?
I don't know.
Because if he didn't know that,
so I can understand. But anyway, misplay your hand. Maybe not, because the dealer turned over flush 6-5. So he won the hand where he would have pushed if he played it the correct way.
If the dealer had 3s and 2s with nothing else, he would have pushed.
He would have pushed, but no, flush 6-5. So it's like, woo, Jeff's a big hero there. So we got a big kick out of that. So that's basically my story. Actually, Tim Lawson and Mississippi Rob and I talk more about the trip on the latest episode of the Better Life podcast, episode number 174.
Okay.
We talk about a lot of things that I didn't cover here. So you're going to hear some
things about the trip,
more stories. So
as instead of focus just on you.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that was it, Mike. I tell you, I had a great time. I'd love to go back. I'm not sure under what circumstances I'd go back. I don't think I'm going to make 7 stars this year or ever again. Basically, the way I think I'm going to continue to gamble. So I don't think they'd give me a free trip out there, but that doesn't mean I couldn't pay, for myself if I can get a decent flight, that kind of thing. So I would love to go back.
You could always pay for a flight. You get there, you gamble enough, you get your trip paid for.
Right, just, set on one location. So
yeah. I mean, if you had to pick, like say, I'm going to make a trip this year, and I got to decide between Atlantic City or Biloxi or Colorado or going to Canada or something, would that be the place of your choice?
Well, okay. I can't speak to Colorado or Canada because I've never been there. So I don't even want to put that in the equation.
Okay.
That's a good question. I sure love downtown Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Because everything's close to each other.
I left Las Vegas out when I said that because that's something we can drive to and... that's our go-to.
If you're asking me, say, Biloxi versus Atlantic City, I'll go to Biloxi.
You'll go to Biloxi. Yeah. That's basically what I was wondering.
For sure.
So, just because of why?
The people.
Oh, okay.
And, I know there's stereotypes associated with it, but people in AC are a little rougher, a little more direct.
A little coarse,
right. And I'm used to that. I have no problem with that. But, the Southern hospitality, there's a certain amount of truth to that stereotype, too.
Right.
And everybody was super nice. Again, it was just such a relaxing trip, and everybody wanted you to win, and just had a really good time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to have to do that.
Yeah, you really should. I think you'd have a really good time.
I'll drive to Biloxi.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay. Well, you know what, Mike? Gosh, I went on quite a while on Biloxi there. Why don't we save all our phone calls for next episode?
Okay,
and then that way we'll definitely have some.
We'll have a longer
next episode. Yeah, we'll have a longer next episode, or at least a voicemail heavy next episode. All right, but before we go, we want to thank some people for some recurring donations. From Kurt, from Jeremy at the Color Up YouTube Craps channel, from James, and from Robin at Anytime Gambling. Thank you very much. We also got a donation from Match'em High Low, the game that we talked about on an episode a while back. Thank you very much for that. And a donation from Neil. It was actually, he put us in a pool, kind of like a 100-square pool that you're used to for the Super Bowl, but it was for the whole tournament. You get a number for the losing team and a number for the winning team. That final digit.
Yeah,
and if you ended up in that square, you'd get some money back. And it was for every game in the tournament. And so the earlier games, you didn't get quite as much money.
Right.
And for the later games,
progressively got more money as it went on.
And we got a little bit of money back from that. He put us in for free and we got some money back. So thank you for that, Neil. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listing showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings. And our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. One thing I forgot to talk about, we were all sitting around at the Baccarat table, and we started talking about music. I was saying, what's this song? I would try to name the song.
You do that to me all the time.
Yeah, I like doing that. And we started talking about music, and I was saying, one of my favorite genres is ska punk. And the guys were kind of looking at me like, you like ska punk?
Yeah.
Because if you see me, you're thinking more like Kenny G.
Yeah, right.
And there's a guy, Hutch, there who's saying, really? I just can't imagine you driving down the road and listening to ska punk. And I got to talk about Mississippi Rob, about music, and a song came on, and it was by Ava Max. And he said, oh, yeah, it's Ava Max. I said, oh, I love Ava Max, and was listing some of her songs. And he was surprised, and I said, well, I actually wrote a customized program that searches through all the Billboard charts, and I update my Spotify playlist every Tuesday. Now, they thought I was joking.
Right. They should know better.
But I do. I have this Spotify playlist that I update every week so that it has all the songs that are on the Billboard charts, all the different charts, hip-hop and country and classic rock, everything, right? And the Hot 100. So he said, oh, send me that list. So I sent Mississippi Rob the list. He's all excited and put it up on Twitter. So we have shared this love of pop music that neither one of us thought the other one would. You don't know until you start talking with somebody. So anyway, you got
which goes to show that if people just communicate a little more and talk to each other, you'll find out a lot of us have similar interests.
Share interests you don't know.
When you look at them, you think, oh, they're not going to be interested in that.
Yeah.
But then when you talk to them, you find out. So, hey, talk to everybody.
Yeah.
World will be a better place.
It'd be better. Shifting gears here, we're in a pool now that Tim Lawson put together, a 13 pool, where you draw for a team. Well, actually, that we had kind of a draft for the team. I think some people could choose. We ended up with the Yankees, which is fine with us. Whoever's team has a final score of all the numbers between 0 and 13 going through the whole year.
Right.
You have to, your final score. So you have to have a score where it ends in 0. You have to have a score where it ends in 6. Everything up to 13, with the caveat that you get credit for 13 if your team scores 13 or more.
Right. So 14, 15, 16,
so,
you get a 13.
Whoever gets that wins the pool. So it's kind of a fun way to do it.
It's a very fun pool.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that.
I'm looking every day now. It's only been 3 days, but I'm looking to see who got what. One team got 13 already.
Right. Well, we were watching that game. Houston had 12 runs exactly. And 12 is like the real hard one because you have to get exactly 12.
Yeah, they should have stopped at 12 and they got 13.
I think they scored more than 13. I don't know.
It ended up
was
13.
It exactly 13?
Yeah, it was
okay.
13.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, we're getting a kick out of that. Anything else you want to say, Mike, before we go?
Well, Mark, I want to recap this podcast by saying I learned 3 things.
All right, sir.
Number 1, and most importantly, is don't get too upset about Padre wins and losses.
Good.
It is what it is, and at the end of the year, it'll be
I can
fine.
live with that. I may not watch any games, but I can live with it.
You can live with that. Number 2 thing to take away from this podcast is Biloxi is a very nice place to visit.
Yes.
Sounded like a non-stressful gambling trip.
Yes.
Where you had fun and people were nice and there was no, other than you're getting there to Biloxi, the rest was pretty non-stressful.
And we actually caught the weather perfectly. Now, there was that bad storm that first night, but after that, the weather was beautiful.
I remember
there was no humidity. I'm sure there are times you can go and it's pretty humid out there, right?
But I texted you and you said that second day, he says, oh, it's wonderful today.
Oh, yeah, I sent pictures. Yeah, it was just
and it
terrific.
was not here. It was kind of crappy weather here. But anyway, so that's the second thing I learned.
Yeah.
And the third thing I learned is that if I'm going to commit any crimes that I know I'm going to go to jail for or something, I should probably do them naked anyway, because it doesn't make it any worse.
Yeah.
It makes the story fun when somebody reads it.
Right.
Like, guy ran down the aisle screaming because there was turbulence, but he was naked. That's way more funny.
Yeah, when they're charging you, they're probably going to waive the indecent exposure.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the minimum thing. You know, you're going to get in trouble for other stuff. So if I'm going to rob somebody's house or a liquor store, whenever I decide that I'm going to commit some felonious crime, I'm going to do it naked.
Okay, good. If you're a person who prefers to be naked in public or with other people around than to have clothes on, then by all means.
Well, it won't matter, right? Because I'll be in jail anyway.
Yeah, I understand. But what I'm saying is, I think I'd actually prefer to leave my clothes on.
Really?
Even if I was committing a crime.
Oh no,
you
won't get in the news that way, Mark. You'll be all over the world. Naked man, arrested, whatever your particular crime of choice is.
All right, I've got to adjust my priorities. Then, I think.
Start thinking about that. Yeah. Write a program for that.
Okay, a customized program for nudity while committing a crime. All right, thanks for listening.
Good night.
Mark, that was wonderful. I had no idea you were so talented. The audience is going to love you.